Welcome everyone, and Nico, I see on Zoom call. This meeting is being live streamed and will be available to view on the Council's YouTube channel. All members participating via audio visual conference, which I don't think we have today, though, will count for purposes of the meeting forum in accordance with Clause 25B of Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act 2002. Law may continue. The affirmation, Gareth, I'd like to read the affirmation.
We pledge that we will faithfully and impartially use our skill, wisdom, and judgment throughout discussion and deliberation ahead of us today, in order to make responsible and appropriate decisions for the benefit of the South Waitangi district at large. We commit individually and as a council to the principles of integrity and respect, and to upholding the vision and values we have adopted in our long-term strategy document in order to energise, unify, and enrich others.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ennis. Apologies, we have an apology from Councillor Fox. We also have an apology for lateness from Councillor Clemenza. Do we have any other apologies? No. Well, you'll move that. Seconder, thank you very much. Lee, all those in favour, please say aye. Since we're all present. What is against the motion is carried. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Right. Good. Acknowledgements and tributes. We'll start with Peacock.
Yes, I'd just like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work of Bryce Needs, who has left council and leaving. He's leaving. Bryce is widely respected and well known across a lot of our South Waitangi community. He's the sort of guy who made things happen when requests came in from sporting groups and organisations. Anzac clubs and places like that. So we'll miss Bryce, but I just want quite like us to acknowledge his moving on. So thank you.
Thanks. I'd just like to acknowledge Chris and John Hugh, whose granddaughter died. And I think many of you know Chris and John and widely respected. They were previously fathers at Paramount and worked tirelessly. Really, it's just a very sad day.
Okay, I'd like to make a quick one of acknowledgements next to the Fitness and Sports Hub and Greytown. Yeah, for their achievements in the volunteer weekend. Coaching, yeah. So I think that's a really great recommendation.
That was in the wire at the sports boards held last.
Yeah,
Wednesday. Yes.
I would like to acknowledge the passing of Little Waitangi Road, who's most of you know, she was one of the first on the Irish Navy committee. Little Waitangi had a lot of knowledge on the coast and all the South Waitangi area, and she was a huge source of information and debating issues. Well, people said she was a background because one guy, she got over a year, she didn't let her go. So she was an amazing person and people and I don't know what she did, just preparing her to do around that.
All right. Two as well. One is Pastor Pete Smith, who was a long-term resident of Cecil Martin Flats. And I think it was 3 weeks ago that I missed that pastor, otherwise I would have he was a lovely guy. He was rough around the edges, but he'd done a lot of work down in South Waitangi down there. As well, I'd also like to acknowledge that it's the last day today for Second Sergeant Ian Osler from the police. He was moved to the Masterton Council, but that's his last day. He was Second Sergeant of the community, and we saw him a lot down here. So I'm just going to try and catch up with him for a coffee over the next few days. Yeah, any others? There's a long line of tributes and acknowledgements. Yeah. Now, Nika, I'm sure it's your turn now with public participation. Nika, you've got 5 minutes. We'll give you an acknowledgement at 4 minutes when the time is coming to a close, and then we'll be asking questions of clarification and then discuss it afterwards. So if you want to unmute yourself, and the floor is yours.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, my name is Mika. I'm here on behalf of the Aotearoa Collective for Public Transport Equity, which is the coalition behind the Free Fares campaign. So we're a group of over 70 climate groups, churches, student associations, poverty action groups, disability action groups, political groups, and councils across the country. And we're calling for the government to fund free public transport for tertiary students under 25s, community service card holders, and total mobility card holders. So today I wanted to bring your attention to a remit which has been put forward by Porirua City Council to the Local Government New Zealand conference taking place later this July. A copy of this remit has been sent to your public forum team for you to read over. With this remit through LGNZ, you have the opportunity to join the voices of thousands of New Zealanders calling for public transport equity, and it costs you nothing. Increasing our public transport patronage and removing cost barriers is key towards mode shift towards a cleaner, greener New Zealand, and acting in line with the urgent climate emergency our government declared. This remit is important because we need as many voices calling for public transport, equitable public transport as possible. We're in a climate emergency, and over the past 3 decades, our emissions from transport have doubled. For many of our poorest and most vulnerable people, cost can be a huge barrier towards using public transport. Supporting this free fares remit sends a signal to the government that more investment needs to be made in public transport. We know in many parts of New Zealand, people still don't have regular and reliable access to public transport, and increasing the frequency and reliability of public transport is really important. But if people who need it cannot use it because it's too expensive, then what would be the point? Cost is a huge barrier towards equitable transport, and we're asking Council today to support the remit as a stepping stone towards more investment in public transport as well. As mentioned earlier, supporting this remit doesn't cost Council anything. All this remit asks is for councils to use their voice and advocate to central government for this ask. Rates won't have to go up, and this remit is not asking Council to commit to making fares free to our target group and funding that themselves. This remit asks councils to join with other councils across the country and many other community groups to advocate for this ask and for these communities. Supporting this remit and advocating alongside other councils can put more pressure on government to honour their commitment to a climate emergency, and that doesn't cost councils a cent. Overall, this is a great opportunity for council to stand up as representatives of their community. The majority of New Zealanders support climate action and want to see people living with dignity. Everyone should have the opportunity to access public transport so they can get into education and employment. And currently, cost is a huge barrier to that. Council has an opportunity here to stand up with other councils and for hardworking, ordinary New Zealanders, and supporting this remit is a great way to do some of that. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Councillor West.
Good, thank you very much for your presentation. My concern is that for rural people who don't have access necessarily to transportation, and by saying it doesn't cost anything, there's always a cost involved. It might not be council, it could be through our tax money. So how do you propose, what are your suggestions for getting the money to fund this?
Okay, I think it's a little bit hard to hear you, but was the question around where should money come from? What should the cost funding be for this proposal?
Yeah, with regards to overall funding as opposed to rating funding, how do we as a country afford this? I think, is that a clear synopsis?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so, I mean, that's a very fair question. In truth, it's difficult to estimate and know exactly how much stuff like this could cost. We do know that the government has billions of dollars for stuff like this. They have the Climate Emergency Response Fund, which I think was sitting at $4.9 billion. And so we know from the recent half price fares for 3 months that cost government somewhere between 25 to 40 million to make it half price for everyone for 3 months. And it's so approximately then it would cost 320 million a year to make it half price for everyone. Now, we're not asking it to be for everyone, we're asking it to be for select target groups who rely on public transport the most and suffer the most when they don't have access to social mobility. And so we also know that the 3-month 25-cent fuel cut cost the government 350 million. So actually making public transport half price for everyone for a year costs less than the small fuel tax cut that they put on for 3 months. So overall, I think to answer your question, there is money there available for something like this. It's more a matter of political will and putting that money towards something like this.
Thank you.
Yes.
Could I just, the second part to Brenda's question you didn't really answer, and that is how does this remit support rural communities which are already struggling to get even basic public transport services?
Sorry, I must have missed that bit. Yeah, that's definitely a good question. We see this remit overall as a stepping stone towards pushing central government to invest more in public transport in general, with cost being a huge barrier for many people to access public transport, which then lets them access services like doctors and education and employment. It's definitely fair to say also that for many rural communities, they don't have reliable, frequent public transport. Anyway, I used to live in Nelson, and in Nelson, if you miss the bus, you have to wait an hour for the next bus. But that's just really isn't that feasible. And then you have that hour just is a huge turnoff for using public transport. So to answer that question, I guess we see the remit as a stepping stone towards more investment in public transport overall, which then we think part of that is making it more frequent and more reliable and more accessible to everyone, including rural communities.
Any other questions of clarification? Oh, please.
Thank you,
Speak into
Mika.
the microphone.
Can you hear me okay, Mika?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a question, do you have any idea of the total numbers that would be potentially eligible for such a scheme in New Zealand? So if you add up all the different groups that you've mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's roughly somewhere between a fifth to a quarter of the population are eligible for a community service card or are under 25. I think it's around 25% of Kiwis.
Right.
Although I'm not 100% certain on that.
Roughly.
And Alistair, did you have a right? Thank you very much, Mika. We will discuss this in actions for public participation. One other question: how many times are you doing this with councils? How many visits do you have, or Zoom meetings do you have in total?
Well, me personally, not that many, but I think it's really important for us as a campaign to try and do like as much personal connection and outreach to councillors through public forums and other conversations as possible. And I really prefer the opportunity to answer questions and have a bit of a conversation and discussion rather than just send an email. So hopefully we'll be able to reach all of the councils in the Lower North Island and as many others as we can where our communities are based. Fortunately, we have such a wide coalition that reaches across so many different areas and has so many different people included that we have quite a good outreach set up. But yeah, So hopefully lots. We'll
Excellent.
see.
Thanks. Well, this is actually, I don't know if you've seen our agenda, but as part of our consideration later on in our agenda, under remits coming through to AGM. So it's very timely, your presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. And please feel free to get in touch if you have any further questions.
Great. So now we'll move straight on to A5, actions from public participation. No, Joe, sorry, our other public participant has apologised and will come to our next meeting. So this will be considered under item E1 with regards to remits. Are there any other actions you'd like officers to take in relation to this presentation? Okay, we'll discuss that later on. Right, extraordinary business. Do we have any extraordinary business that councillors would like to raise? Oh, good. Item A7, Community Board and Board Standing Committee reports from the meetings. We don't have any present, so we'll move past that. Minutes. We're now considering the minutes for the 18th of May and the 15th of June 2022. Have there any corrections been identified, Pam?
And on the June, the still in the carrot. It's not being used.
Okay, cool. With that, can we have a mover the minutes of the council meetings held on the 18th of May and 15th of June 2022 true and accurate record? Thank you. Colin, seconded. Pam, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Aye. Sorry, I would say aye. All those against, the motion is carried.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just want to note that we might pick up spelling mistakes, but it is a mistake, and we are actually confirming that the information is correct. So, not to be fussy or anything, I think that we should continue to pick up in the mistakes.
I think there's no, I don't think we've changed the resolution to adjust it, but we'll, as a standing expectation that we can make any spelling or punctuation errors will be corrected once that's published. Right, recommendations, item number B1. Minutes of the council committees and community boards. So we are considering report B1. Do we have a mover to receive the report? Alistair, seconded councillor Hens. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, motion is carried. Right, do we have any comments from these minutes? Right, cool. In which case, do we have a minute to receive the minutes, item agendas 2 through to 8 as read? Thank you very much, Lee, seconded. Thank you, Chippy. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. We'll change the business in a hurry. So now we're on to B2, recommendations from the Assets and Services Committee. Do we have a mover to receive the report? Jerry, seconded, Alistair. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. Right.
The recommendations, we had pretty robust discussion about also assets and services, and really received very well. And I think it's, there's a good reader there. I mean, I guess the key to it is like council, trust the council, and other than ongoing operation. And I don't know where the pump track are now. The funding so far, we fund those.
And donations from East Central, I think is something pending and just us.
I think they're waiting for this, and then there'll be
okay.
more support for it, but they just didn't want to go out and ask too many people or shoulder tap people and apply for grants. until they knew that they were.
Yeah, really.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So with regard to the contract, it's great to see the community engagement, the community involvement. It was really prevalent in the documentation that's presented. They did actually go out to the community and they have done a lot of hard work towards it. Just thought I'd like to acknowledge that.
And the important thing is that it fits within the Constantine Park.
Yes,
You know, and it enhances the park, and it's not conflicting with any other usage of Constantine Park. And its proximity to the school makes it very attractive to youth and the swimming pool as well, and it main part is the swimming pool. I think those are their takeouts from the assets and services. So
I'd like to also acknowledge the work that Bryce has put into this, along with Charlotte and the Considine Park Committee and their suggestions and the tweaking of it as we've gone along. So I think quite as well. So I think all of those groups combining together has laid the groundwork for the second.
I think you need the right campus to combine efforts, they all have one vision in mind.
And tweaked all the things that needed to be tweaked, and
Absolutely.
I think the major thing is looking at the safety of people that are going to use that park, of where they're going to park, so that there's no danger for children getting in and out of cars. It's one that I think all of those things have been taken into consideration.
Probably moved to before, right?
we can do that. Are you trying to lead me, sir? All right. Recommendations 2 through 4 as read. Councillor Gibson, second Councillor Lorenzo, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, the motion is carried. A funny little thing, if you know this resolution number, it's 2022/22.
Okay.
Interesting. Right, so that motion is carried. Now we're moving on to 23 recommendations from the Finance, Audit and Risk report. So do we have a move to receive the report? Brenda, seconded. Lee, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. Lee, would you like to?
So this is regarding proposed fees for the boilers. We haven't charged in the past, but we're essentially following recommended guidelines and adopting this. I don't know whether you noticed, but in Carterton, they're charging like $60 an hour,
Yes.
which was passed. We're proposing $38 an hour, but the first half hour is free. And we just also didn't want to have any impediments for media requests. That constitutes quite a large amount of time for boilers. But I don't know, Amanda. Yeah.
Amanda's ready.
Can I just clarify that? Because in the report it says that previously we had been charging $37.50 per half hour. And then, but the Ombudsman guidelines, the charge for staff time states 38.
So the first half hour is always free, but I think historically we haven't charged that.
So we've had the ability to charge, and we've had an informal process in place. We very rarely apply it. So yeah, we're going less than the ombudsman rate, and it's per half hour after the first.
So the ombudsman rate is a maximum as opposed to a recommended.
Yeah.
So I think what the important thing is that we are pushing this clearly to the public in our rates and charges as opposed to free charges, not publicly available. That's the crucial point.
Yes, absolutely.
It's always been.
So just to move further on to what Amanda said then, will this then be looked at being applied to every, so it will still be, because for the way that I look at this, it concerns me as a councillor, and when it comes to transparency and our ratepayers being able to get information, I don't want there to be any kind of barrier.
That's not about creating a barrier by any stretch of the imagination. It's about trying to balance some of the very significant lagoimas that we get, often by bigger organisations, and they go to multiple councils and ask for extensive information that often take us many hours to compile. So, and it's been clear with those organisations that if it is going to take us many hours of work, there's a charge, and we'll communicate that with them. I went to a Lagoima session with Simpson Grayson a few weeks ago, and they were very clear. The Ombudsman does not encourage fees for Lagoimas. He is, in fact, reversed fees for Lagoimas that councils have charged. So it is, and he's very supportive of transparency. Obviously, that is. I'm very supportive of transparency, but it's very, very important. It's not about creating barriers. It's about, we're a very tiny council with a very tiny capacity. And when these bigger Lagoimas come in, they do take us time. We just want to be able to be compensated for some of that hours that it takes us.
Or it might cause them to focus the request.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's the other
And I
thing.
do remember one coming through that was very broad and went to every single council. And I personally spent 3 hours going through emails, and then they changed their mind halfway through. You know, it's like that. So I mean, that's pretty cool.
I think just having that clarification here now.
But it's not changing the way we're approaching it, it's been putting it onto our rates and schedules.
Being a bit more public and transparent about the fact that we
Yeah,
can
that's what I
charge if there is a reason to.
So, but the recommendations are that we receive and that we undertake a first principles review. That's what we've got in front of us from the. Was it?
No, it's not the wrong one.
It's recommended we adopt the proposed fee charges.
Recommended.
Oh, there you go. Yes, sorry.
I think the other thing, just another clarification, is that Amanda and the team are actively looking at how they can put more information on the web. So there's some very straightforward questions can be answered quite simply. So that's
That was just my
the.
one concern, but I think Amanda's answered that
Yeah,
question.
so that's the
When
way
it comes to,
You
you know,
Yeah,
your average.
I do, I don't mind charging for the work that staff do on this, but there are two parts to this. My mind there is the information readily available if people do their own work?
Absolutely.
Right, and if that is the case, then I have no problems charging for it, because if they want information that's readily available, we put a lot of information up online and so on. So the problem I have with charging is if the information is not available. And that's where we shouldn't charge, because actually we have a duty to provide that information to someone else. And it'd be really interesting to get an indication from you how much sits in each sort of category.
So if information is already available, we point the person, we actually don't treat it as a Lagoima, because Lagoimas are about information that isn't publicly available. That's the purpose of Lagoima, to make information transparent. And there's a ton of stuff that we do that isn't on our website. And that people are very curious about. So that's good that we should be getting that stuff out there. And I think Lee's pointed out putting our Lagoimas on our website. Masterson already do this. Whether or not we follow exactly what they're doing, because they have people's names and things like that, who requested Lagoimas. But making the Lagoimas as publicly available as possible, because if I've got that question, somebody else in the community might have that same question, and rather than have to do another Lagoima.
How much is it about repackaging information that's in there in a particular way?
Um,
Because I could ask you a question, but I know the answer is somewhere in the thing, but it might not be in the form that I've asked the question.
I think if you looked at the report that was also on the finance audit agenda about the range of employment and the topics,
Yeah.
they were quite bespoke questions. It wasn't all diplomatic questions, other than some of the questions around rates. So that's a good indicator. That was they were not things that were they were quite specific things that often a general something on the website will trigger a more specific question.
I think as well, if you read the FAR report, and what I found most interesting were the 8 or 9 scenarios where the Lagunas were, charging was reversed, it gave us a very clear indication of the type of the ombudsman on what should be charged and what shouldn't, and at what level. Really, you had nothing.
Yeah, probably my concern is probably one that's probably in the community is that they don't want to see the deployment as a barrier for the community for getting information. I get that you get the frequent flyers, but yeah.
It shouldn't be, I'm talking about organisations.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think the actual the way the policy is approached actually is for far, and I think it was a good concept. What we're doing here is just adopting the proposed fees and charges and putting what was already there in public focus in our charges, and that's really what we're considering as a council today.
I'm happy to have further conversation if anyone's got concerns.
And the way you're a regular, kind of that 6 monthly, quarterly report.
So we're doing quarterly reports on Lagunas to Far.
We do
So,
that regularly. Yeah, so we can point people to know where.
Absolutely. So we're basically doing what the themes have been, how many we've had, how many we've done on time, where we've asked for extensions.
Yeah. So with that, I think would anyone like to move that we recommend that council that we adopt the proposed fees and charges for the official participation of best for the 2022-23 financial year. Move Lee, second with Colin. All those in favour can say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. Now moving on to the committee, which is C1, the adoption of the annual plan and setting of rates report. We have a move to receive the report. And Alistair, all those in favour can say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. So, Amanda, would you like to take us through this report? We had it for a while. And hopefully we've all absorbed it.
So there are 7 recommendations. So the adoption of the report, looking at the finances, the carryover, schedule of fees, any edits that need to be done to get it up to publishable standard. If you find anything being delegated to the CE, the rates resolution, which is very critical. That's one of the main purposes of the annual report. And that will publish within 1 month of adoption. So we've had lots of conversations with you guys about the annual report, annual plan, my apologies, how it's shaped, the variations that we've got from the long-term plan, and some of the minor tweaks that we've made. So we had the original conversation back in April, May, I think it was, around we're going to stick to year 2 of the LTP. We didn't think there were going to be any significant changes. We wanted to do a really robust engagement process with the community to make sure they understood what year 2 looks like. In that process, we've had some feedback, which we've put in the annual plan and how we've addressed that feedback. And I think Karen can talk to the financials. There's few small changes that we've made are pretty clear.
Karen, have you got anything to add, or would you like us to go through the discussion?
I mean, I could just add in the short time I've been here that we made some minor changes to what was put forward in the initial. Nothing material or significant. So, and I think, as you're all aware, we've come in slightly under the total rates that we proposed this year. So it follows pretty much the LTP, with just a few minor changes.
And I understand both Carlton and Marston have also asked the annual plan. Okay, I'll open it up to councillors for comment or questions.
I just want to make a comment. The word on the street is that the GW rates are going to go up, and quite significantly. And my concern is they're all parcelled in the same envelope as our rates. And we need to be able to communicate to the ratepayers in the district that they're separate, because people do look at it and think it's all the same. And I've spoken to the other councils and they're on the same wavelength. I just wonder if we could do some comms around this and do some comms with the other two councils. Because we all rate Greater Wellington rates on the same envelope. There could be ways of doing it. We discussed before. Maybe have a separate.
I think that is a matter separate from what we're adopting in the annual plan, but if we are happy, I put this as a late extraordinary item, that we can talk about the way the rates are conveyed or built discussion. I don't believe there's enough we can do for this year, but with regards to separating those regional rates.
Yeah, but I do want to flag.
Yeah, and just to add on to Debbie's point is that, one of the things that we have to remember is that the rates calculator includes Greater Wellington. So automatically, that to someone who may not be aware of that, it looks like it's skewed. So as long as people are aware that the Greater Wellington Regional Council is actually in there, and I think it has to be, but it's, yeah, it does, it actually skews what it looks like for.
There are 4 line items in your rates calculator that specifically
Greater Wellington.
Yeah, cool, Pam.
I think that's a good idea to have a discussion on it as an extraordinary item, because I think there's some ways when you send out the rates notices for the instalment after the 1st of July, there's some communications and things that we can put with that to clarify what is South Wairarapa rates and what is GW rates, because there is pages that go out showing the GW.
And there are other options whether or not they should be put into a separate envelope to totally distance them from South Wairarapa. I mean, it might be that we need to be costings on this to look at the alternatives through a separate resolution.
But a separate page in there that sits as the second page after our rates notice, which is in bold and things like that, that clarifies what is and what isn't, I think is a great way of
So I think we may actually do a special action item on this possibly instead of going for extraordinary.
Just following on from that, I wonder if it's possible to make some easy changes on the website. We look at your rates and please note this is SWDC GW rates. Some sort of simple mechanism there. And the other thing is if there's any comms surrounding rates for this year, it can also add that messages.
Okay, I'll put a note of that, and we may do an action item with this.
I'm sort of slightly confused why we think it's our responsibility to have Greater Wellington Regional Council rates on the rates calculator. It is entirely their responsibility to advise the public of their rates. We just collect them on their behalf, and I'm very upset that we will take the flak because it's on our calculator.
Especially if they're talking 12.5 to 15%.
Exactly. So why don't we just say, why don't we take them off our calculator?
We've got that point.
I think Charlie was one.
And then you, Colin, or Charlie.
Sorry, can I just clarify? GWRC rates are not included in the rates estimator on our website, and it does state that.
Okay.
Sorry, Charlie, well, just check that, because when we looked at it, the 4 line items relate to the GWRC with the Greater Wellington rate, so we'll just confirm.
Yeah, I certainly was when I did a rate search for our property, and there were 4 line items with Greater Wellington.
Yeah, we'll clarify, but I think the action that you're asking us to do is to communicate and do everything that is possible and reasonable to do to try and differentiate the fact that there are the South Wairarapa District Council rates versus the Greater Wellington region.
And I'll add something to our resolutions.
Thank you, Your Worship, and on parking Greater Wellington rates, it's not part of my speak here in terms of our annual plan, and I congratulate our staff for the effort that they bring. And fine tuning things to get down, drilling down the detail and making some cost savings across the district. I think there's not a lot of fat in the system, and I think given that we are facing extraordinary charges that occur from building materials right through to the way that we operate, I think hopefully there's enough slack there that's going to compensate or allow for those cost pressures. But overall, I think the work that's been done by council officers and presented to us today is a very reasonable rate. Thank you.
I certainly think that using it with the council officers, we've gone line by line through what's necessary versus nice to have, and I think we've come to a pretty solid.
I think you need to add the effort done by the council from us.
There's been a lot of work and a lot of extraordinary meetings to get to the point that we've got to. Gareth.
Just a quick one, and I've already spoken to our team about the estimate that goes up live once this has gone through. I think would be very helpful because a lot of people are talking to. Then you can actually just direct them to that and on we go. So if we can start, that'd be really good. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I've got a question for Charlie. When you're doing the rates estimator, and you choose which student rate you pay, you've got Featherston Urban, Greytown Urban, Mutton Urban. What's the difference?
There isn't any difference at all to the differential, but what shows up on people's rates instalment notice won't show just South Wairarapa Urban. It shows each of the 3 towns. So that it was easier for people to identify which rate they paid, we gave all of those options.
But there is no difference between a Featherston Urban and a Greytown Urban? It's just
only their land value, the differential is the same.
Oh, thank you.
I've gone over document time, so the community board from Greytown has asked me to raise the issue of the consultation on West Street, which I thought that we had agreed that we would be doing it at this end. Maybe it's an oversight, it's just come up.
I think the resolution passed has not changed, was it was included at a minimum at the latest in the long-term plan. There's been no resolution to change that.
I'll just clarify, I have to clarify it. But we agreed to bring it forward into the second.
So we'll ask for a clarification, and we may need to revisit that, but from my mind, that resolution it's not been changed from looking at it. We did consider it, and we said no.
I thought we brought it into the earliest available opportunity. You check it out, carry message.
Anything else, guys? I'm going to take these one by one, and then I will add something as a proposed to either action item or resolution. So, do we move? Do we have someone to?
Oh, sorry, before you I have to ask. So the figure in the documentation that's going to go out is correct. The percentage rise is correct. Is that right? 6.6%?
As a percentage of the district.
So that's the costs of providing council services. 6.6 is the cost, increase in cost of providing services the council provides.
And that's on average.
No,
That's the actual.
That's the growth of the pie. The pie is 6.1%.
And that's 100% accurate.
It's just the cost of doing business compared to last year. But that doesn't necessarily reflect individual
Thank you. If I could just clarify, Brenda, I think it's important to use the total increase is 6.61, not the average. The average
It's different.
it's very different,
Yeah.
and it's just point of
I just think we
clarification.
just need to make sure that we get that clear.
And it is
clear
the
and understood.
total increase in rates, not the average. Yeah.
Thank you,
But
Lauren.
it's-
So do we have someone to move items 2 through 4 as read? Colin, second Jeffy, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against, motion is carried.
Sorry, hang on, we're just going to clarify something that was just said. Okay, so it's not an increase, 6.1% increase in rates, it's an increase in the expected cost of running councils.
I think we did clear it.
I just want to make it very clear.
So then the important one, number 5, do we have someone moving to adopt the rates resolution for the 22-23 year in accordance with the Local Government Ratings Act of 2002, including the Part B notice. Moved Lee, seconded. Pam, all those in favour, please say aye.
Alex, could I just throw one more spanner into the works? Which I'd love to, of course.
Do you want to do this before we finish the motion?
Yes, I do, yeah, right, because it will impact on it. Assuming that my question before about West Street is correct, what will that, have we got the cash available to do that?
That will be, we'll look at that and we may have to come back, but at the moment, the resolution stands.
No, well, the trouble is we're about to set this thing here now.
Yeah.
And if we gave indications to the community that we were going to do it the same thing, and it is an oversight on my part of the report, so do we need to make sure that that's actually included in this before we see
It
these?
would be great if we did this prior to.
Sorry, complete oversight on my part then. Probably you've got to go through that, completely forgot about this.
Should we take a 5-minute coffee with recess and?
Let's just check it, we don't want to make mistakes.
Just one second.
Through you, Chair, not all engagement is listed in the annual plan. We've got a ton of engagement on, and it's not all listed item by item. There's significant engagement on a number of issues, so I don't know that it's going to cost us a significant amount of money to deliver that engagement if we need to do it. It's within a wider budget of engagement.
There was quite a big budget that we do this there, yeah.
So,
It's 50 grand.
Yeah, I don't like, I think it's good practice to try and make a decision on who on this. But we do need to pass the rates resolution. What you should be asking me, if we do need to fund this, is what compensatory savings we're making in this annual plan budget to fund it.
Okay, well, that's my question too.
So in other words, you pass the annual credit. If we find that we are going to need some funding for the West Street consultation, then you would basically, I will find compensatory savings inside our budget lines to fund that work.
So it's not off the table if it's found that there's a resolution stands.
Because we've got money for
Engagement.
a number of activities that we can just basically.
So in order to cement that, perhaps we have that as an action item.
Did we add that to what we're talking about regarding Greater Wellington?
Well, you're on fire today, remember, with your items.
So,
Sorry, quick question. Do you have an idea of how much we're talking about this?
I think it's about 50 grand.
The main word was actually staff time to actually come up to explore the kind of options for the use of that land. So that is around going out to other councils, finding out what they plan for the future that we can contemplate it. So that's largely, that's what I say, but we can do that with an staff.
and I think we also need to look clear, I'm pretty sure that there was no change from the council resolution that was indicating it was long. So I'll read it again and we'll go through it. To adopt the rates, do we have someone to propose that we adopt the rates resolution for the 2022-23 year in accordance with the Local Government Rating Act 2002, including the Part B notice. Moved Lee, seconded Alistair. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against.
Just a quick clarification, what's the Part B notice, or just, it says including the Part B notice? Sorry, is that something from the Government Rating Act 2002? Might be.
Charlie, do you know? Yes. I think Karen's, according to section 95.5 of the LGA, the purpose of the annual plan is Part B, to identify any variation in financial statements and funding impact statements included in the local authority's long-term plan in respect of the year.
So that was on page 187 of our agenda, of the part itself.
Sorry, because it was just a cut being noticed.
Brenda?
Just got a query there, key variations on the year 2 work program, and that's parks and reserves. Open space strategy has been moved from the operational work program to be incorporated into spatial planning and master planning. Now, those spatial planning, master plannings are need to come out when?
The division of
Luxury parks, because Featherston's first.
So what we're saying is that we anything to do with parks and reserves.
No, so this is, we have we have a specific amount of money to do a general open spaces strategy. Having done the work on the spatial plan that you did, you wanted the suggestion was to actually, that when we're doing the master planning, we consider green spaces, commercial activities, residential, we look at the whole picture. And so we do it as part of the budget for the spatial plan. So we look at the whole picture, not just specifically at open spaces. And that was a considerable amount of money. It was about
1.2 million.
No.
I think it was 1.2 million in the LTP.
Cool. So we're at all those against and abstaining. Any abstaining? The motion is carried. But just please do note that section B is part of the agenda, and like I said on page 187.
Sorry, did you just put 5, 6 and 7 all together?
No,
Just 5, okay, sorry, because we were asking about that number 5 and then I just got a little bit lost, sorry.
Through you, Worship, can I just ask regarding section C, so that will include current charge schedule, will include for the government fees.
We've already passed that. Previously.
Just something I've done what we've done.
And then do we have someone move that the 2 notes 6 and 7 as read with regards to the noting the update fees and noting the publishing. Owen, seconded. Thank you very much. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried.
Well done.
Well done, team.
Yes.
Thanks, Charlie.
No, thank you so much, Charlie.
We'll go through C2. Do the C's and then we'll break for a coffee. The review of the revenue and finance policy report. Item number C2. Do we have a agreement to receive the report? Agreed. Seconded. Thank you, Jimmy. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. Harry, so let's take us through this.
And over to
Amanda.
So this is the piece of work around the rates review. So it's probably a double act between me and Karen and potentially Charlie. So is she gone? She's gone. So we had Philip Jones come and speak with you guys a month or so ago. So this is really looking at the proposal that he wanted to put forward around a Goose Principles rates review. So every 10 years, that's the good practice. It takes a bit of time. It's not something you do quickly. If you want to do it well, we have to have one. That's part of the LGA that we need a revenue and financing policy. The last review was taken in, is that a typo? 919. Oh, it's the previous long-term plan. Sorry. And the review happened in 2015. So there are 2 options. So you set out your high-level objectives, the funding needs analysis, etc. And you develop the options to be considered, model confirm its preferred rates allocation, draft the proposal, consult. This does require a special consultative process. So that's something to be mindful of, and then the new rating methodology would be set. Just for your consideration and thinking, obviously we've got this in the long-term plan, it will be something that a new council picks up as a piece of work, obviously, because it does take time.
So there's two options. One option is first principles. So you really look at all your activity, appropriateness, the rating mechanisms, all those types of things. The second is basically it starts from how things are working and what's what we need to fix. So once a variation to the rates, essentially, the others are first principles. I certainly would be suggesting you start with the first principles approach here. You'll recall, you've seen some work that was done in Wairau around the district rating review, and the lessons learned from that, this is the importance of taking each step and doing it properly. So doing a consultation on first principles, then the next step is actually coming up with a proposal to consult on the finance and revenue side. So this is the problems, this is the issues that we have in our community, what we want to fund. Next step is then you do a rating proposal, which then is consulted on, and finally it's the process of actually deliberations, hearings, all those types of things. So it's a step-by-step process. It's the first step, and this is important to get this one right. Otherwise, you just simply go and say, well, just pick what might be a noise or an issue for one particular sector.
I think we did indicate to the public that this was important to us to be done. This is the soonest we could get it done. I think with the change in landscape in with central government, what I'd like to know is that as we do first principles, can we take into account possibilities and changes of revenue stream rating as a result of 3 quarters?
Not at this stage, simply because it's not.
The issue with that area is that water in particular is a target rating. So that's probably not going to change.
Yeah, that's a big
but I just endorse what you said. I think this is making good on the promise that we made to the community to do this. I think there's a lot of wish in the community that we do a review of this. It might not eventuate any change, but it's actually shown that we promised we would do this and I think it's important to do it.
And just on that, Alistair, I think the really important thing is that there were several submissions on the annual plan that asked questions around rating structure that would be addressed through a rating review. So that was something that we kind of in the annual plan we said yes, we're going to do this. So how we do it is the critical question.
I think I'll just reiterate what you've always said, that remembering that rates are a blunt tool, and whatever changes we might make, there will be winners and losers, and it won't please everyone. So, but I think it's our community that wants us to do this sometimes. Certainly, and I totally agree that to go back to first principles, I think we need to do it once, do it right, take the time.
We have a statutory requirement to do so. So
I think by doing the rate review, just ensuring that it's fit for purpose.
Good. Any other comments on this?
I was just going to say, a lot of people might not be happy with what comes out of it.
That's the nature of politics, like you can never please everybody all the time.
But also, I just wanted to reiterate now it's just it actually comes down to statutory obligation as well. We've heard it from our ratepayers, and and we also need it's time to look at this before within this 10-year time frame. And it doesn't feel like 10 years when you say 2015, but it's halfway through 2022. So I think with the amount of work that needs to go into it, it won't take long before we're getting up there.
And I think I'm mindful of what the great founders were saying. Yes, that was a really good submission, but it's really in this area, but we are going to address it. So, do we have someone move that the council undertakes first principles review of the revenue and financing policy. Pip seconded, Alice, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, the motion is carried. We're now moving on to C3. Council, the draft delegations procurement and discretionary expenditure and fraud and corruption policy report. Together moved to receive this report. Pam seconded, Lee, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. Ma'am, would you like to?
Oh, yay. I think I'd like to begin by commending the process that we kind of ended up with on reviewing these policies. And it's something that I think we've got a ton of policies to get through over the next probably, it's going to be a continuous process of making sure that our policies are fit for purpose and up to date. You know, bringing you a working draft, offering a working group to work on it in detail, and to nut out all the, dot the I's and cross the T's and make sure that we've got everyone, everything where it should be, I think has been a really robust process. So we started off with 3 policies that we wanted to review. We've got 5, I think 4 are coming to you today. And the financial delegations is the next one that we'll work on. We made the call to split the delegations really clearly between non-financial and financial delegations. The other critical thing about these policies is they are audit requirements or regulatory requirements to meet our obligations under different acts, particularly the Building Act. So making sure that these are all clean and tidy has been a really good, thorough process, and that idea that we're not currently taking the policies that we've got in place and editing them, we're actually doing really thorough reviews and ending up with fresh documents that are well structured, easy to understand for both the public, elected members, nominated members, and our staff to use.
And I'd like to comment, and I know that there was a huge sigh of relief from Councillor Gibson. And it was really great that Brenda Pam stood up and done the money on this one. I've read it all through. If I'm happy with it, I'm happy with it. And so all kudos to those councillors.
Oh, yeah.
Just another thing to note is the review date. So we chose a review date very carefully. So this review, because these are financial policies that Karen and her team will have to be the reviewers of, we've looked at election cycles, annual report, long-term plan, annual planning cycles, and gone, where is there a reasonable gap in the schedule that makes sense to spend a couple of months on this piece of work when it's due again?
So with that, guys, any further discussion on this one, or I've read it? We'll take your recommendations from the working group. Lee, have you got a comment?
Sorry, well, firstly, great work, Steph and Amanda, really amazing. And it was good doing it as a team, we were doing it first off. And it's a great way to summarise it all. Pam and I had a wee comment around under the procurement policy. So it's the paragraph under 3.4.
So what's page 277, Stella?
277.
277.
Just a minor improvement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling down.
It's under the procurement policy. It is under scope, which is number 3 in the policy. Just make this a bit bigger so they can read it.
So, and you, this is after 3.4, are you with, let's skip it, please.
That's on the scope.
So it reads, on occasion, exemptions may be required to this policy guide, such as an emergency or to comply with regulatory obligations. Exemptions are approved with the CE and will be reported to Finance, Audit and Risk Committee on a quarterly basis. So we just wondered if we would amend that from quarterly to the next.
Yes.
Next meeting. And I did have a bit of conversation with Amanda around the dollar amounts. So how do we define minor? I mean, if it's over 10,000 or I don't know, where we guided by you two, or whether you just want to be any exemptions, just get reported as a routine.
I think any exemptions.
Yeah. Are you happy with that? I mean, just be line item.
You don't know exemption.
It's the reporting of the exemption.
It's the reporting of when we do operate outside the policy.
So it doesn't say.
Just goes to the next item.
Yeah,
So it'll be outside budget too.
might not be outside budget.
And that looks maybe,
It will potentially be within delegation and all that kind of stuff.
So it's a question of whether we put a dollar figure
yeah.
or whether anything over, I mean, if it's in budget.
So for example, here's an example off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of something really practical.
Yeah.
If I can't remember what the amounts are off the top of my head without going back to the policy, but if we've got $10,000, after $10,000, we go to 3 quotes. And we're thinking it's going to be under $10,000 and we don't go to 3 quotes and then we get a really good offer and it's 10,100. You know, that's the kind of thing that we'd need to report to you because we wouldn't have gone out for 3 quotes, but we've gone over the $10,000. I don't know if that's, I'm making up the number.
No, that's
And
a good
that is,
example because we had quite a bit of discussion around the quoting and the process of doing that. What should be written and what should be
And through that reporting, if it was 20,000, we then the park can say, actually, you should have stopped and gone through, and then we can report back.
And I think that's where the chief executive would make the call when we've got, what does that tipping point?
And he's answerable to that call.
Yeah.
So how do, so we agreed that we'll do the following farm meeting, but it's just the wording around.
The other thing we've got in these policy documents is in a bit of an agreement that if we need to tweak them, we'll do that as we go and, you know, we'll let you know if we need to tweak them rather than a massive review. So that might be something in practice.
This is how it works.
This is how it works, we'll give it a go.
So if we could just note the changing in that so that we now go, when we pass this resolution, it's assuming that that has been changed.
Okay. So the following.
Can I add one more, please? Can we go to page 281, which is number 8, how do we procure the plan?
What page is that? 281.
281. So it's 8 point, it's under 8.1 and it's the last paragraph. And it says business case should be completed with procurement activities which are not budgeted for in the annual plan or the long-term plan. I think that needs to be highlighted, that a business needs to be in, so the one above, you've got a procurement plan template, and then if you're going to do a business case because it's not budgeted for, I think that business case needs to be highlighted so that that's picked up if you're skimming through that document. It's only a minor change, but I just felt that it was needed to highlight that.
Cool.
When we're looking at the delegations, some of these delegations actually extend council members around the table. And my example is 5.1, exercising delegations. Temporary, 5.4, temporary delegations. Okay, it's on the hard copy, it's page 214, and Sierra is page 72, yes. F1's on the report, yeah.
Mine's on the report.
Page 17 on the report, if you've got a hard copy, it's page 214. So if we have a look at temporary delegations, 5.4, 5.4.1, council officers, well, sometimes who are charged with increased duties, sometimes it actually applies to elected members. And my instance for this would be the likes of our deputy mayor, when he has to step up to that.
As a mayor, I don't have any delegation anyway, so any transfer of power.
You have delegation for the emergency.
That's covered by civil.
But it's not available.
It's not a delegation. It's not a delegation, it's actually a statutory, it's a statutory function. It's a civil.
And actually, we will not have them if you go to the next available mayor, closest mayor.
This is intended for inside the business.
Yeah.
Where say I go on leave, executive member go on leave, I ask someone to act up into that role, and so there's the ability to exercise the delegations of the role.
And also, I think we specifically see council officers. As opposed to.
It's not just.
Yeah. Sorry, can I just suggest, in terms of a business case, that is quite a bit of work, so we perhaps need a level of materiality, because if you're asking for some small amount of budgeted OPEX or CAPEX, do you want to go into a business case?
And then there's minor alterations, but you can clarify that for, for councillors, because you have that ability to do that, and I think, yeah, you wouldn't want the cost of the business case to exceed the
Cost of the delivering the work.
It was just highlighting that word that it was a business case because it was.
And Brendan, just finish it off in our stuff.
Yeah, if you go to page 213 or page 16 of the chapter.
Yep.
Under 5.2, exercising delegations, it flip-flops from a he, she to an officer. So my example is officers may exercise a responsibility, duty or power, but not that he or she should do so. Should it not be, not that that officer should do so? Does that make sense?
Either is correct. But minor ones like that, rather than part of this, just send them through and they'll change them.
Yeah,
I think they're going to want to read these, which is a good point.
I just wanted to highlight that perhaps there is a conflict between two paragraphs that we keep talking about. And the business case thing that goes against the previous paragraph that we're talking about, which is the exemption under an emergency. So if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. You don't have time to do a business case.
Yeah, they are different in as much as that the emergency overrides the business case.
Well, that's not what it says. It says anytime you, because an emergency might be an unbudgeted item Harry has to approve. For example, the pipe across Terranigga, he would have actually gone and come to buy it. You wouldn't do a business case.
When you're looking at that business case, Steph and Amanda, could you also clarify that and distribute it to councillors?
Yeah.
Two business cases in public services, very specifically.
It might be justification.
Thank you, sorry, I haven't read that.
Just one other thing, the last time it might come under financial obligations, and so we tend to do that. I've asked for the organisation chart to be made available. Organisational chart of South-Morang District. Is that something that we put out to public?
I think it's on our website, isn't it?
It's not. And I requested it a couple of years ago. And it's never been done. Cool.
Okay,
Not for structure, as long as it's just got positions, not people's names.
It's just the titles.
Yeah, and that's pretty important because it has changed.
Yeah,
Yeah. In the last 6 months.
Yes. sort of roles.
That's what I published with the website.
I've never been able to find it. Search lots of times.
So, guys, I'm going to go, propose that we pass items 2 through 7 as read. And we're going to take those changes and the report back as noted. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
So do we have someone move items 2 through 7? Lee, seconded. And all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, the motion is carried. And now I will adjourn for a cup of coffee.
Just
and come back.
before we do that, can we say particular thanks to Steph, who's
Yeah.
a massive
Yeah.
and it's been a new role for Steph, getting diving into this segment, very good job. Notwithstanding with
Contact, sorry, Rita?
Just before we move on, if I can just make the connection out of the organisation chart put onto our website.
It's an action item to report back to Fix Council. In fact, I'm going to report back far when it's been done.
Thank you.
Far? It's whatever. Right, guys, I adjourn and we'll be back at 11.
Sorry, my next.